What's going on, everybody? Anyway, here. All right, so I needed to come on. I wanted to come on. I was in a training this week, and it kind of was to test. It was to test the limits. To test the limits on how you respond in difficult situations, because we all don't respond appropriately in different situations. There's been instances where I've responded so far left at home with my wife and my kids. There's been times that I responded appropriately, but the fact of the matter is, we tend to respond to situations based upon how comfortable we are or what we did when we were growing up. Put it plainly. So here's the gist of the training. In a training, we had to submit our bios to the trainer, and the trainer would select uh, a poke the bear. I call it a poke the bear situation, and you got two people doing dialogue back and forth. One person is going to be a jerk, and the other person is going to be the person that responds. The ultimate point of the training is to get you to recognize that it's a difficult situation, one, and to respond appropriately, because the training was at work and it was for uh, supervisors or leaders at work, that to teach them how to respond in an appropriate manner and not in the manner where you got to have HR brought in. So we submitted our bios, and the trainer would pick a situation or a scenario. You'd have the person that's responding, and then you'd have the bear poker. So it was my turn. I went, and it was surrounded around education. Well, appearance education. Go figure. So those that know, if you know me, you know what my education background is. But that's because you've asked the question. And there are some people that know me that don't know how far I've gone in education. But if you ask me, I'll tell you. If you don't ask, it's not a topic of, we're not talking about it. But in this scenario, in this dialogue, he had questioned me about my education. And I had to take a step back. I had to compose myself, and we only had 5 minutes to do this. So immediately, how he came at me, I wanted to go all the way back to New Jersey and give him what it was he was giving me, because he poked it. And he poked it early in the morning. And it was a good day. I had ran that day, and he still poked it. So I had to immediately compose myself and respond in such a way that I could not allow the person in front of me to know that I was irked. Excuse me. And I had to gather myself very, very quickly. I know that's not something that we normally do. We can do it, but it takes time. Here's the thing. It was something surrounded around, he said something, and it immediately took me back to third grade day two, where one of my triggers that I realized was not one of, but is not feeling seen, not feeling heard, and not feeling like I belong in the situation or in the room per se. And it took a very long time for me to talk to people about that, to recognize it, to admit it, and to talk about it, and to try to get some resolve. So he does that. I give him what it is. We talk about my education, and you could tell that he was taken aback, because he didn't know that I got some letters behind my name. He looked at the appearance. It could have been what I had on. It could have been the color of my skin. I don't know. He had, and it could have been the prompt, but it he looked at me a certain way. It was the prompt. I'm sorry. he looked at me a certain way and he made the assumption. And I had to, like I said, in a split moment, articulate to him high school, undergrad, graduate, and then I dropped in some other things, some personal development that I've done on my own. And for him and the people in the room, they were like, wow. I say all that to say, you have to know what your triggers are, one. And you have to be okay with the fact that you have triggers, but you have to work on them. Because there will come a point in time where you are going to be triggered and you still have to perform. And you can't perform how you did before. You can't, one of my pet peeves is always hearing, well, we've always done it that way. And look at where it's got you. That's the reality of it. If it's broken and you haven't fixed it, you're always going to perform in a broken mindset. The product that you give out is always going to have flaws. You're always going to have problems when it comes to communicating about X. You're always going to respond the same way, especially if you have not addressed the issue. It is what it is. Doesn't mean that it has to stay that way. But being able to articulate, to answer the questions that the trainer had given me to answer, or had given the person to ask me to answer this situation, felt really, really good. But I don't believe I would have been able to articulate. I probably would have failed. Not probably. I would have failed that assignment because if I was not aware of what my triggers were. Understanding that there was a point in time where I didn't feel seen, heard, or that I belonged in the room, and it did something to me. It could have paralyzed me. I could have lashed out, and I could have lost my job. But we have to get to a place, we as men, and I say that from a space of I had to get to a place where I understood that effective communication is a thing, and you have to do it effectively every day in order to be able to continue to do it effectively every day. And you have to be able to express yourself in a positive manner. How many times have you gotten in an argument with your wife and your facial expressions, me, or how you responded in a very curt manner, me, has changed what was going on immediately? I have. I talk about it. But understanding what the triggers are and knowing that I may have to take a different approach. I may have to take a breath. I may have to take a step back. I may need to take a break. Helps in the response. I say all this to say we as men have to get to a place where we understand that it's okay to communicate effectively. It's okay to grow and not respond the way that we've always responded because it'll get us something different. You know, if you want something different, you have to do something different. You can't say I want X, but you're not willing to do anything to get there. Then you really didn't want it. And if you didn't want it, you could have saved your breath. That's just me. But what I'm putting together for 2025 is we'll do a series of videos. We're going to do, I have I'm in a process of finishing the book that I was writing 2 years ago. And we're going to do some things because I understand that effective communication not only helps us men at home, it helps us at work, it helps us with our kids, it helps us when we're in the community and people are watching us. That's the reality of it. People are watching us. You can say you don't care, but you do. You can say you don't need help, but I guarantee you keep doing the same thing you've always been doing and you keep getting the same responses. It limits you in business. It limits you in your marriage. It limits you in any role that you're in. So stay on the lookout. I want to hear your comments. Drop your comments below. Let me know if this is you. If it's not you, great. It's okay. But there are men out there that are my target audience that are struggling with effective communication and how to positively express themselves. If this is you, if you are ready to make a change, get at me. All right? Talk soon.